What is up, you beautiful, beautiful gamers, and do be welcome back to role-playing games like always, to this merry old corner in the internet, where we like to talk about video games, and today we're gonna be talking about this leak, Elden Ring leaks. Well, they are out there, like always. And a week ago, there was this leak of supposedly artwork images from the world bosses, and alongside, well, this thing came from a Soulsborne content creator from China, if my memory serves me well. But the interesting thing in here is that the video was taken down. You can no longer see it. But some Reddit users, I'll be having the link of the source in the video description, they managed to capture the highlights of the video, and we're gonna be talking about both of the leak, the likelihood, just for the sake of talk about Elden Ring alongside with all of these details. Alright, these are the concept art reveals that you can see in the screen right now. The first picture we see reminded me a whole lot of Bengal from Dark Souls 2. We see the allegedly boss using what it seems to be two red scimitars and in the head, if there's any, thanks HD artwork, it appears to be missing at first sight, just like Bengal's. The second one is a serpent-like creature that would be faithful to the Lovecraftian influence that we strongly see in Bloodborne. One thing worth mentioning is that while the pictures have been out there for over a week now, no one has debunked them, like it has happened so many times in the past with other supposed leak artwork images. Furthermore than that, if you want to take a look at them, you have to dive in several different articles, since the Reddit post doesn't have them anymore, due to them taking down as well as the original video. Also, let's remember that something similar happened to Dark Souls 3 prior to the release back in the day. Although the images and leaks from back in the day of Dark Souls 3, they did show a lot more details about what the gameplay might actually could have potentially looked like in the engine, as well as the artwork was accurate. But they did came back again with allegations of a release date that ended up being true. The game world is based on the world 3 from Norse mythology and also references something from Celtic mythology. Do have in mind that authors like George Martin and J.R.R. Tolkien, they tend to write their stories and novels and narrative settings, worlds and myths based on the literature kind of traditional canonic way for heroic fantasy. Not gonna dwell too much in that, but make it sure they write most of the times with emulation, which is taking the verisimilitude of the world and building their very own mythology, but based on this pre-imagined with the reimagination and the styles that they have. That's why you see the Genesis emblazoned in the beginning of the Silmarillion with J.R.R. Tolkien. That's why you see so much of the Nordic sagas in there. That's why you see so many cultures blended between the reimagination of the world that is the Song of Ice and Fire from George Martin. The gameplay is similar to Dark Souls, but the map is much larger, includes dynamic weather and day and night alternation. Imagine you fight a boss from day to night, he said, and the weather changes from sunny to thunderous. Now this is really nothing breathtaking or nothing like we haven't seen past in the before. If you remember, there are several boss fights in Dark Souls 3, for example, to set the mood, where the weather changes. I mean, the assets are already there. In the Nameless King boss fight, in Slave Night Gale boss fights, I mean the thunder, it changes from whatever phase you're fighting the boss, so the assets are already there. I wouldn't be surprised if these things manage to be a main setting mechanic aspect of Elden Ring, which is officially named to be an open world, and dynamic weather is kind of like a standard in open world nowadays. The modeling of enemies is more complex, and there will be Cthulhu-style enemies similar to Bloodborne. Again, nothing really too much mind-blowing. It is, of course, widely known that when you develop a new entry of a game, you kind of want to be on top of the graphical prowess that you are able to do. This comes like adding more polygons to the models or using techniques of modeling these 3D assets to make them look more soft and round, using techniques that might actually allow you to get the most out of your resources. Remember that red-haired giant? Look up at sky, it burns. He was badly wounded in a battle, his faction characterized by red hair and the use of large weapons. There is also a faction characterized by white hair. The two biggest factions he has known so far seem to have come from the same ancestor, but have split up eventually. This is the juicy stuff. While Martin is writing the main narrative and the world mythos setting from Elden Ring, I wouldn't be surprised if he used these same techniques that I talked about previously in the video. And I would assume as well that the major blend between cultures of the design of enemies and levels and world building, this blending between Western and Eastern mythologies, which has always been inherently part of the Souls series, is still in here. Now, if you know anything about Norse mythology, remember this thing is supposed to be based on the Norse mythology, the World 3, stuff like that. And we mention in here two factions that come from the same ancestor that have been divided. If we talk about Norse mythology and the cosmology of it, then you know that Ymir came to be from this impact blend, or when Muspelheim and the ice of Jotunheim collided. And when they collided, the substance from this event, that's what made Ymir being into the world. And Ymir is the father of all the giants, and we know that in Norse mythology there are many giants. There are the giants of Jotunheim, there are the ice giants, there are the fire giants. Right now I don't remember the name of the ninth world where the fire giants inhabit, but we do see, like in here in this supposed league, red hair giants and white hair factions. We know that Ymir breeded a whole bunch of giants. The giants of the Norse mythology did had childs with the Aesir and the Pioneer. So, you know, it makes sense, at least to me right now. The guy with a lot of hands at the beginning of the 2019 trailer is probably an NPC. This probably kind of causes noise in my head, but you know, it is what it is. That crestfallen dude will appear again. Waifu, similar to File Keeper. Patches may not appear or not appear in human form, Bloodborne Spider. There are characters like Gael and the Xanthus King. The game development stage has been completed in the first half of 2020 and is now in the polishing stage. The game will be released in 2021, he's pretty sure. It's possible to see a new trailer after the Japanese New Year. He mentioned some things about people being sure about these leaks. I used to be a journalist, I used to write columns from a local newspaper, and I mentioned that because it is important to have in consideration the reputation that you build when you work in the media world. We have insiders, these like leaks come from everywhere, from anywhere. Do take all of this that we discussed in this video with a grain of salt, but do have in mind as well that this comes from a apparently reliable Soulsborne content creator. Sometimes people comes to you when you have a huge base of fan base or people that watches you. Of course, insiders can't just come out into the open and release stuff because their work job positions are at stakes. It falls into the hands of the journalist or content creator. Back in the day, I did had my sources. I'm sure that you have seen a whole lot of movies where you see people having sources inside some places that can leak information for them. The important thing in here is that if you release false information, you have your reputation at stake. And you know, reputation takes years to build, but just moments to crumble down. So, I mean, it's just a leak, but with all these things that we have been discussing, to me it makes sense. And if it's a leak, it's a really, really well fabricated leak. It also do have in mind that there's these Italian journalists that have insiders that have proven to be reliable sources that mention as well in the past. I'll have that article in the video description that the game is in the polishing state, and if it wasn't for COVID, one of them mentioned that we would actually already have the game in our hands. But nevertheless, do take all of this with a grain of salt. I hope that you like the content. Do let me know what you think about all of this thing. Do let me know what do you think about Elden Ring. And with that being said, I'll see you beautiful, beautiful gamers in the next one. Remember to stay safe. Remember to stay awesome. I'll see you beautiful, beautiful gamers in the next one. Stay safe, stay beautiful. I'll see you later.